Welcome to Angel's Table for a special segment titled Animals as Messengers. And we would like to welcome to the table Lisa Barrie, pet communicator and founder of Newark Ministries.
Thank you.
And I'm going to actually turn the table over to Denise, and she is going to conduct the interview and lead the conversation.
First of all, I'd like to know, how did you find out that you were able to communicate with animals and that other people didn't?
You know, that's a great question because we've chatted a little bit on that, but the real eye-opener for me was when I was 13. And I had talked to animals my whole life. I never realized that other people didn't. And I would also like to, I like to teach as I talk and go things and hopefully won't go over, but if people could be aware that they may be different, and when they find out they're different, it doesn't mean they're a problem, it means they're gifted. And at 13, by that time, I had seen so much that if people had told me, which they did not, that I couldn't do it, I wasn't going to believe them anyway because I'd seen miracles with animals and their messages. But at 13, I was in my mother's kitchen. She was doing the dishes, she was putting away the dishes, her back was turned, and this woman is extremely bright, well educated. Summa cum laude stuff. So I was leaning on the kitchen sink and I was telling her that, the voices I was hearing. It was probably our first real conversation between us, which is a sad statement in itself. But I was leaning on the sink and I was telling her about the voices, and my mother, without turning around, says, well, hearing voices is a sign of schizophrenia. And in my 13-year-old head, I don't know, it was a God guidance, I said out loud, well, schizophrenia runs in families. And without turning around, this smart woman said, well, then you must be psychic. Because she was not going to have schizophrenia in her family. And she never said another word. I didn't peruse what psychic meant. I just went about my business, and she never brought it up again. So I mean, that was the first time I realized that other people weren't hearing voices, let alone talking with animals.
So at what point did you realize, though, that you were talking with animals,
Well, I knew I was talking with animals. It's like talking to you. How would I know I'm talking to you? Because you're responding. I mean, I would sing raccoons out of trees. I would get animals telling me when they were going to give birth, so that I could be there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So and that the real message of, I think the difference between what others are experiencing and what I believe I'm experiencing is that I became severely ill in '89. And turbulent times. I mean, that's a whole different story. But the point is I had a real problem walking, disabled, not ambulatory. And I was divorced at the time, coming in '95. And so I had a fish that was paralyzed, I had dogs that were paralyzed, I had a horse that couldn't walk, I had, just a number of animals, including myself. None of us had anything in common as far as the food we ate, the background we came from, the DNA, what part of the house we lived in. Nothing was the same. So finally, in my anger, because I get angry with God, we had a different segment, and I guess I bitch a lot, is what I do. I don't really pray, and God has always answered me. And so I stood in the living room, and I said, and I get emotional with this because it's a big deal, and I said, if you are taking this on for me, you need to knock it off. I can't afford the vet bills, I can't afford to lose you emotionally, and you need to stop right now. And one by one, each one healed, and then I did. I mean, the doctors take credit for my healing, and I can assure you, that moment I realized that animals were taking things on. If they can have the same thing people can have, and we don't have the same DNA, then one by one over the course of time, I realized that illness of any kind is a message and not a problem. And that people are running to doctors, and I'm not telling you not to. Put your effort towards your faith. I didn't trust people and didn't like people from the beginning. So I wasn't going to give my power over to them. So I complained to God my whole life, and He answered all my questions. And the animals give me messages.
So how do you know that when an animal is doing something, for instance, that it's a message for the person versus general animal?
When it stands out, when you think, what are you doing? For instance, recently, within the last year and a half, I fell prey to common belief that maybe I should go to the doctors. All this colonoscopy stuff is on the news, and if you're having these problems, you should go. And I rehabilitate primates, monkeys, and other animals as well. In 2 different parts of my house, my animals, the monkey would go over to where the water dish was and urinate in it. I had a dog that was going over to the water dish and urinate in it. And out of my mouth, I'm going, why are you going there? Exactly. Why was I going to the hospital? So I was listening to, I set up an appointment, and I had a ride set up. It took a half hour extra to get to the hospital, which was a sign. The animals were giving me a sign. That we get to the hospital, the paperwork wasn't done, that was a sign. The doctor, she said it's okay to be a half hour late, that was a sign, something what's up. But I had told God before I got there, different messages, this is how this works, is I said, if I'm not supposed to be there, you need to stop me in a gentle way, because I'm being convinced by my earthly knowledge from the media and friends that I need to do this. You need to stop me. So I said out loud to the gal that drove me, good friend, I said, if the doctor's not there, I'm walking out. So the paperwork was there, and it was interesting because I was sitting all ready to go, needles in me and everything. I've got big veins. They couldn't get the needle in, which is a sign. The paperwork wasn't done, was a sign. The nurse leans over to me in a voice that was not hers, says, she looked me right in the eye and she said, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. And I thought, and I'm calm, and everybody said, well, you're awful calm for going through this. I said, I'm good. So I waited. Finally, the nurse comes by and she says, pulls the curtain back, and she says, I'm sorry it's taking so long. The doctor's not here. I said, well, get my clothes. I'm leaving. I mean, you have to follow up on what you say. Sometimes, instead of saying out loud for these messages, instead of saying out loud, show me that I'm supposed to do this. Marry that man. Go on this date. Wear this clothes. Take this job. Show me I'm supposed to. The best thing, it's going to work because you're going to find a reason, because you want it. You want the money, you want the man, you want the change in life. And all the animals will speak against this, by the way. You'll have signs from animals that aren't even yours will start speaking out. And so my take on it, and the teaching moment, if you will, is to say, if I'm not supposed to go there, if I'm not supposed to do this, stop me in a gentle way. And let me know I'm not supposed to. And it will come. But the idea is to when that block comes, recognize you're supposed to stop and have the guts to stop.
So as far as animals' behavior not being related to something that you're doing, so you're saying whenever they're doing something that's uncharacteristic for the animal?
Well, not uncharacteristic, because urination, that's a good question.
But in the place, it was
by
a typical place.
Yes, I've done a lot what I call readings and or counseling, if you will. But back to that hospital thing, by the way, I left that day, and I went to bed in pain and told God I better be good in the morning. And I haven't been sick or pain, I've been pain-free since. But that's the faith thing. So back to the messages. There was a gentleman, and this has been publicized, so I don't mind saying the name of the animal and everything. But he had called me and said, I understand you can talk with animals. I said, I can. And he says, I've got a cat named Blueberry. I'm a breeder of ragdoll cats. And we're not, and by the way, he does a great job. I've seen his place, they're all running free. It's not in cages, just for the public's knowledge. But the cat went to another home to have its own home. And he called and he said, this animal is urinating all over her house. And it's just never done that. Why would this cat be doing it? I said, well, Blueberry doesn't want to live there. She wants to live with you. And he says, well, she's got everything great. I said, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, Blueberry wants to be back home. And he said, well, that's fine. I don't mind that. I just wanted to give her a good life. So he brought her home and the cat stopped urinating. 3 years after that, he calls me and he says, no, I thought you said that cat wouldn't urinate all over the house. I said, that was 3 years ago. What's going on? He says, he's peeing all over my house. I said, well, let me talk to the cat. Now, the cat isn't in front of me, so I'm talking etherically, telepathically, if you will, to the cat. And the cat says, I say to the man, his name is Al, she says that there's someone in your family that has 2 weeks to live and you know it. And he says, nobody's dying in my house. Nobody's got a problem. I said, no. Family. It doesn't have to be in your house. But you should already know that someone in your family has 2 weeks to live and you know it. He said, you're right. He says, my brother is dying of stage 4 cancer. I said, the cat says that you're angry that this guy could have stopped it. Whatever he was doing in his life is what you feel brought on this cancer. He's not doing anything to stop it. He says, you're right. I said, your brother's dying and he's wanting to go. Talk to him. He talked to him, the cat stopped peeing out of the house. So, when they're in the rooms, it makes a difference. And back to that, this is I think, an amusing one, if you don't mind, on a message. So another woman comes to me, I'm doing a fundraiser. By the way, I like to do that. I like to raise money and awareness for causes. And so a woman comes to me. She happened to be African American. She's sitting at the table, and she says, I understand you can talk to pets. I said, if they're talking, I'm talking. She says, well, I got a dog. I want to know why he's doing what he's doing. I said, well, the dog says you're sitting pretty. First I say, it looks like a two-toned dog, like a Cocker Spaniel. She says, yeah, it's a beige and white. I just said, want to make sure I'm talking to the right animal. I said, the dog says you're sitting pretty. She says, I don't care. I want to know why he's doing what he's doing. I said, the dog says there's a toxic leak in your basement. She says, I do not care. I want to know why the dog's doing what he's doing. I said, why don't you tell me what the dog is doing, and I'll tell you why he's doing it. Now, by the way, remember, everything.
The toxic leak.
Everything's a message. Everything's a message.
And what was the first thing?
That she's sitting pretty. So she says, the dog is crapping all over the house. I said, the dog says he's not pooping all over the house. It's only in one room. She says, well, right, it's the dining room. I said, and it's on the other side of the dining room table? She says, yes. I said, and you're cheating on your husband? Her mouth, right? That's the response. Go, oh, no. She says, did the dog tell you that? I said, the dog tells me that, the leak in the basement tells me that, the poop tells me that, and the dining room tells me that, and on the other side of the table. The point is, and let's diagnose this, the dining room is where you're served, much like a marriage. So on the other side of the table, you can't see it, but you can smell it. I said, so this man knows something's going on. He just hasn't seen it. I said, and it's his best friend. And she goes, you're right. She says, if I stop cheating, will he stop pooping? I said, he will. So the leak in the basement is your foundation. Again, family or marriage. Where the dog pooped in the basement was on the right side, the left side, so I was able to say it was her doing it, not him. And that, so but the leak in the basement is about water, and water coming in from an outside source. Like Jesus is the water of life, so any kind of relationship is attributed to any kind of liquid. So if you have a leak in the basement from an unknown source, you've got a relationship coming in that's making things stink, taking down your foundation, and it's always a symbol. For instance, we talked about your car, right? And that you said, because I like to do this. I would do it for free if people would just pay my bills. So, so you had mentioned about the fan, and I said that it tells me that your biggest fan has gone and broken down, and that's when you told me who you felt it was. So the car will do it. If you don't have animals, the car will do it. If you don't have cars and animals, the house will do it. Everything is trying to help the human because we are in charge on the planet.
Now, could you talk about your cats?
The experience that I had with my cat.
Right, there you go.
My cats that are constantly giving messages. Several years ago, I was having a lot of digestive issues, and I didn't really understand, and I kept trying to adjust my diet, and I had, in the mornings, started making some unusual concoction that I was drinking, and every morning my cat Lola would just start meowing. She was yelling at me, and I would pet her, and that wasn't what she wanted, and she would just keep yelling at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I do not know what is the matter with you. So I called Lisa, and I said, Lisa, what is my cat doing? Why is she yelling at me? Because that's what it felt like. It was yelling. And she said, well, what is she yelling at you? And I told her, I said, it's in the mornings. I make myself this concoction of cranberry juice and flaxseed. And she said, she wants you to stop using flaxseed. And I said, why? She said, because it's giving you digestive issues. And I thought, well, wow, that's really interesting. I wouldn't even have thought that. So I quit making that concoction, a week later I was diagnosed with diverticulitis. And I was like, wow, okay, so the cat had been trying to tell me that for about a week, and then
So you were aggravating.
Yeah.
But the doctor said that even the breakdown of that flaxseed still could cause that problem.
even when I was grinding it, it
Right.
was still causing the abdominal issues.
Well, the thing is we're not giving animals the credit they deserve because we have an ego problem is what we got. You know, the science is now finding that they can detect diabetes and cancer. You know, they've been doing that their whole life. And I can guarantee you, if you have an animal in your household that has a health concern, it applies to your household or someone you know that you love, even if the animal has never met them. I am more than pleased to work with emergency situations, I mean life and death situations, to correct that for free. Because no one should have to wonder if they have enough money to see somebody. It breaks my heart because the animals are suffering and the people are suffering. And illness is a message whether it's in a human or in an animal. And it can be resolved instantaneously. I just talked to him, I had hoped it would come. And his name is Jim. They had, a friend of mine had called and said that, well, I met her through Newark Ministry, but she's become a friend, and she's a daughter of a friend of mine. So she said that her father was going to have to put down his dog. And it was big of him that he was going to do this because this dog was in such pain and, you know, wasn't acting right, wasn't coming to him, wasn't allowing him to pick him up, was biting at him and wandering the house, bumping into things, just all sorts of problems. And so I volunteered. I said, if this man cannot, I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. It's your right to do what you want. That's not my deal. But if I can't share with someone that you can have an instantaneous miracle, then I would be lying, I would be no good. I would rather take the abuse the public is going to give in order for it to save the lives. You know, to give some enlightenment on this. So he called, and I said I would go down there and go in the room and hold that dog. That's a big deal. No animal should go in there alone. You know, if that's what you're going to do. If that's what you've decided to do and you cannot comprehend a miracle, then, you know, go all the way with the animal. So, I said if you're going to, I went into cremation or burial, whatever you wanted to do, you know, to give some advice on this. So she said, please call him. I can't go into that with my father. You know, he's so emotional. You know, the dog's dead. He's got to put the dog down. You know, it's the right thing to do. And I said, I'm not telling him not to. So so I left a message. He ultimately called me. And as he was talking, I went into what I do. You know, to him it didn't sound like preaching, but I was making him aware that what was going on was a message. I said, and I will absolutely come down there and be with you if you want. I mean, he didn't know me personally. And he didn't want someone outside of the family that he didn't know coming down there, and he was going to be crying and everything. And I said, or you can hear me out, and we can get a miracle. And he says, what are you talking about? I said, everything this animal is doing relates to you in particular, rather than someone you know. And without giving detail on that, I did describe what it was for him. And he says, you're right. And then he says, wait a minute, he says, this dog wants me to pick him up after weeks of not wanting it, not coming to him, biting him. And so he put it on, he says, I put him on my lap. And as you're talking, the dog is listening to you. He says, this dog is, you know, letting me pet it. You know, I don't understand what's happening. He says, no, you don't understand. I said, no, I understand. He said, no, you don't understand. This is a miracle, he says. So ultimately, the dog healed right before his very eyes, and he's ecstatic. The thing is I'm just sharing, it can happen for anybody. Like you said, how do I know? And that this is a gift for me. This is everyone's privilege and no one's talking about it. I can assure you, if we discover that everything is a message, like I'm saying, illness in particular, for people and pets, where are the doctor bills? They're not going to be any. The good news is there can be people like myself, if you're going to charge for something, charge for the time it takes to tell you, rather than just bleeding. And think of Obamacare or whatever people are bitching about. You know, everybody's putting faith in science and the government, and we are born with this power. And the only reason I really know it and can do it is because I didn't care if people liked me or not. I mean, I learned early, people were liars. You know, you can't trust them. Something else is manipulating them. The good news is if they know God, they will act in that better way, and then you can trust them. You understand? I mean, most
I
people
understand-
are
I understand what you're saying.
vying
Yeah,
for
I mean,
position.
it's
in
not that I
power.
don't understand, I don't necessarily agree.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm looking more for, if you could talk a little bit more about things that people might do. I mean, is the only option for them to call and speak with
Well,
someone like you in order to try to
Well, that's a good
figure out
question.
what's
That's a real good question.
Actually, I wonder if it's a matter of, it's a learning process, and if we're in early stages of that,
Correct.
that we're, it's all one step at a time, and for someone like Lisa, she can make these things happen immediately. I mean, I know personally that my cats are always trying to give me messages, and I keep trying to tell them, stop, I already know this, I can't do anything about it, so please just stop doing it. So I think,
So do
one
they
thing
stop?
is, it depends, because some of the same things keep coming up, like, they were giving messages of people dying or someone dying. My mother died, my father died, so they were having a urine issue. And, to them, they think they're doing the right thing, and it's like, okay, I know we're doing our best, so in some cases it's frustrating. But it's the becoming aware that your cats, dogs, pets they're actually giving you a message. Like most people don't, they just think their cat's being bad. And instead of,
or that they're sick.
Well,
Or that
let's
they're
go with a
sick.
simple one that
Yeah.
people might be able to grab. Let's say your dog goes into the garbage and spreads it around. Most people are going to say, well, something was in the garbage, or bored, or it wanted something in there, you need to put a lid on it. Well, lid on it is a good, there's the words. What you say when you see it is generally the answer to the situation. For instance, cancer is something that's eating you. Not necessarily something inside you that's eating you as a physical manifestation of the cancer, but something in your life. And the area in the body is the sign of what's bothering you. Usually I can go and discern what the message is in particular, where it started. And a woman had called about her cat. And she,
Well, same thing.
right. Well, this one is publicized, so I can say her name and where she's at. But the gal's name was, let me think of her first name, was Ann. That's what I knew her as. And she came, and she was in front of me. And she said, I just want to see if you can talk to my cat. So she gives me a name. I give her a description that she says, out of all the cats in the world, and you're seeing my cat. I said, I just want to make sure I'm talking to the right one, like with the dog. And because everybody has a dog or a cat named Boo Boo or Baby or whatever. I want to see your baby. So I said, the cat says he's got a severe kidney ailment. She goes, I can't believe you're talking to my cat. She says, pretty good for 3,000 miles away in New Mexico. I mean, she's sitting with me in Michigan. And I said, well, now I'm going to say something here that's going to sound really bad. I said, and you need to know that anything that is negative, we can change today. I said, so I don't know if you've been to a reader before, but I'm letting you know that in order to, if you're just going to give fluff and everything that's good, that's not really going to help. If I see a roadblock or something coming and we can stop it, which we can, then it's best to see it. She said, oh, I'm good. What I didn't know was she had another doctor referred her to me. So she says to me, gee, what's going on? I said, the cat says you're dying. You've got a terminal kidney disease right now and you know it. And she says, you're absolutely right. I've got polycystic kidney disease, I require a new kidney or I'm going to die. I said, well, the first thing I'm going to do is call it off the cat. Much like a religious person might say, cast it out. So I explained to the cat, like I did to my animals, this is not your job. You're confused. You're not saving them. You're going to die. She already put a cat down due to it. So she says, and then what? I said, I'm going to look in your life and see why you have it. She says, oh, I know I have it. What I didn't know at the time was that she was a doctor. And she had all the explanations and she was good with it, science. And so I said, no, that wouldn't be it. There's an emotional moment in your life that has brought this about, and I'll take a look and see what it is. So I looked back, and the woman was probably in her 60s. Gosh, I hope I'm right on that. But it happened between the ages of 36 and 38. And I described it to her, and she says, oh, I know what you're talking about, but I got over that. I said, had you gotten over it, I wouldn't see it. And she says, well, now what? I said, now you heal. And pretty persnickety, she says, how long will that take? I said, well, you can heal today, or you can take 9 months if you want. I said, see the doctor, don't see the doctor, get the kid, you take it, do whatever you want. What I'm telling you in 9 months or less, You will be fine and your doctors will tell you so. About 8.5 months later, I get a call from Dr. Newman, who ultimately divulged that she sent this woman, who is Dr. Ann Matheson. She was at the University of New Mexico at the time. It's been a lot of years, 8 years at least, maybe a little longer. So she, Newman, as I called her, she says, Dr. Matheson's in the hospital. I said, what's going on? And she says, what do you mean? I said, I don't know, Dr. Matheson. I can start at the beginning or the end. And she says, well, they can't find a damn thing wrong with her. I said, I don't know, Dr. Matheson. I said, are there any symptoms? She says, no, you don't understand. There's nothing wrong with her. I said, why don't you tell me what's going on? And she says, I was like pulling teeth sometimes. She says, well, you're the one that said she was going to heal. I said, I don't know, Dr. Matheson. I said, what's her first name? She says, Ann. I said, how's her cat? She said, the cat healed last week. Both of them healed. And when you said how, with regards to having, and she's still fine, as far as I know, 2 years ago is the last update I heard. They did put the cat down, which bothers me. They didn't think to call me or think about the things I've said. Like I said, when you call it off, you say, it's not your job to suffer. I can't afford the bills. For whatever reason, or I want you. You're to stop now. We have charge over the animals. That's the law of creation. And they want to know, do you know? So they are doing what we should be doing. But we're missing it. But now's the time. There are, whispers.
They are doing
and
what we should be doing, and would you say what that is?
Well, they already know you're dying of this. You're eating the wrong thing. We should already be in tune, but we're not. We're talked out of it through advertisement and books. Everybody's writing a book, and everybody's reading that book, and then they want the author to write another book, and we're not going to the right author. And that isn't me. It would be whatever you want to do, the version of God, the all-knowing, all-good, tell you what you want if you ask. But the thing is I grew up complaining because I knew this, I didn't want to be here. I mean, it looked like hell to me. You know what I mean? Like, tell me what's going on. And he did. And I saw the animals, and then slowly you put the dots together, like any scientific experiment. Anybody that watches anything, an invention, same thing. What do I need to do here? Why isn't this working?
So for those of us who may have missed the specific thing that you said that we need to do when we see our animals doing something that's definitely out of the ordinary for them, how do you suggest that someone address that?
Okay, I'm going to go back, I'll answer that, but I want to go back to the garbage all over the house.
Okay.
That symbolism. Generally speaking, a dog is going to represent a friend, or a male friend. A cat is generally going to represent a female friend. Not all the time, but 99%. In this case, if a dog gets into the garbage and spreads it around, there's a good chance that you've got a good friend spreading garbage, gossip. And you need to put a lid on it and keep your friend out of your stuff. This isn't just a dog tearing up garbage, I assure you. An animal that's behaved all the time and then all of a sudden does something even funny, can be a message of seriousness or playfulness.
Well,
go ahead.
I've got to tell you about, there was someone that I...
Careful.
Yes. Someone that I considered a friend.
Right.
And I was taking care of her cat. And I've always loved cats, dogs, any animals really. And I was going to feed the cat, and the cat's hissing at me, and I just couldn't figure it out. I was going up the stairs, and she's sitting on the landing, hissing at me, not wanting me to go up the steps. And it was the most bizarre thing. Well, later on, I found out that this person was not my friend. Wow. So the cat was reflecting the way this person really was inside. I don't even know if she was really conscious of the fact that she was not my friend.
Well, I can assure you that the cat wasn't disliking you. The cat was showing you that the one you love is not to be trusted. Exactly. So but you said, what can we say? And to reiterate in hopefully a little more concise way, is that if your animal is suffering in some way or behaving in a way you don't like, is to speak out loud and say to the dog, name the dog Jojo, don't name the dog Jojo, we'll call the dog by name. The dog Jojo. That'll solve all your problems. Just say, I am in charge of you. I've been made aware that I'm in charge of you. You're behaving behavior or your illness is something that I can't tolerate, I understand it's a message, you don't have to do this any longer. You're to stop right now. And the key phrase is, your only job is to be loved. Let me love you. And you should see, I mean, it was full conviction, and it's okay to say, add to this, a version, this crazy lady named Lisa Barrie says blah, blah, blah. If that's true, you stop now, because the animal's going to know the energy of Lisa Barrie, if they don't know her, knows what I call God, and says, oh, yeah, well, we're in charge, they know, we've got to stop now.
And then on that note, we're going to stop now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa, for coming and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you very much.
And you can find you on Facebook.
Oh,
for
the
New Art Ministry.
New Art Ministry is the first worldwide ministry for animals. On a side note, I'm not that holy roller person, so if you're looking for that peaceful, calm, fluffy person, you've got the wrong place.